Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 14, Text 10. Aher eva pashyaposhaha.
Aher iva payapushaha
Poshat syapi anarthabret.
Poshakasyapi anartataha
Vena prakrite vakalaha.
Vena prakrititeva khalaha
Sunita garbha sambhavaha.
Sunita garbha sambhavaha.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The sages began to think within themselves. Because he was born from the womb of Sunita, King Vena is by nature very mischievous. Supporting this mischievous king is exactly like maintaining a snake with milk. Now he has become a source of all difficulties. Saintly persons are generally aloof from social activities and the materialistic way of life. King Vena was supported by the saintly persons just to protect the citizens from the hands of rogues and thieves. But after his ascendance to the throne, he became a source of trouble to the sages. So we read yesterday that how because King Anga was not there, there was no king. So there became more thieves, more rogues. Now to bring law and order in the society, the sages appointed King Vena as the king. But he himself, and now of course the thieves and rogues scared of him. So they were corrected, but King Vena is very cruel. So then he himself is doing atrocities on the citizens. So now the sages are in a dilemma. What shall we do? And we were hearing from Srila Prabhupada, that how the devotee is always concerned with the welfare of everyone. Paradukha Dukhi that's the Vaishnava. Saintly people are especially interested in performing sacrifices and austerities for the advancement of spiritual life. But Vena, instead of being obliged because of the saint's mercy, turned out to be the enemy because he prohibited them from executing their ordinary duties. Now, it's the sages who appointed Vena as the king. As sages were always doing sacrifices, and now Vena is stopping the sages to do their duties. So these were the sages that helped Vena become king, but now he's become so proud that he's not considering, oh, it's because of the sages I'm in this position. He's in fact stopping them. A serpent who's maintained with milk and bananas simply stores poison in his teeth and awaits the day to bite his master. And so that's why Bhagavatam is giving this analogy, comparing Vena to a snake. Snake, you give him milk, poison grows and grows, and he doesn't consider, oh, this is the person who gave me milk. So here Vena also is not considering, oh, I've become king because of the sages. He's not considering that, and he's in fact stopping them from their duties. Nirupita Prajapalaha
Nirupita
Prajapalaha
Prajapalaha
Sajigham Sati Vai Prajaha
Sajikam Sati Ve Prajaha
Tathapi Santavima Mum
Tatapi Santvaye Mamum
Nasmam Stat Patakam Sprishet.
Nasmam Tatpatakam Prasate.
We appointed this Vena king of the state in order to give protection to the citizens. But now he has become the enemy of the citizens. Despite all these discrepancies, we should at once try to pacify him. By doing so, we may not be touched by the sinful results caused by him. The saintly sages elected King Vena to become king. but he proved to be mischievous. Therefore, the sages were very much afraid of incurring sinful reaction. The law of karma prohibits a person even to associate with a mischievous individual because law of karma is very fine, how we are getting the reaction for what action. So it seems even by just associating with someone who's like Vena, the sages are afraid that they will also get a share of the karma. By electing Vena to the throne, the saintly sages certainly
I just have one
associated with
question.
him. Hare
I just have
Krishna?
one question.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So as we read that only by association also we can acquire the path karma results of other person.
I'm sorry, I can't, your voice is breaking. I'm not sure if it's my internet.
I'm saying that only by association we can acquire the path karma result of the other person also. Only by association.
Yeah, because here how they are associating, they were uh, they were responsible for putting him on the throne, right? That's how they associated with him. That's what is written here. By electing Vena to the
Okay.
throne, the saintly sages certainly associated with him.
Okay. Okay. So
But
that
of
means
course,
that when we elect,
because hmm?
like when in the today's democracy world, when we elect somebody, and if he turns out to be a really bad ruler or a bad politician, then that means that we are also sharing because somehow
Yeah,
we voted for that person, right?
yeah. So we are not able to
Oh my
understand
God.
how, yeah, laws of karma, they are very, very, uh, how do you say, very fine. We don't even know.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's so entangling. Because
Yes.
every action causes a reaction, right? So, like that, so many
Yes.
unconsciously we are creating so many unconsciously when we are walking and unconsciously so many living
Hmm.
entities. But what to do? That's how it is to live in this material
Hmm.
world, right? So that's the reason we are
That's why
given
nobody
the
wants to live,
Hare
right?
Krishna mantra. Huh?
Hmm. That's why
I'm
nobody
sorry.
wants to live in this material world. Like they say that. So that's why all the sages say that as soon as you can leave this material world, that is the best thing for you.
Yeah, yeah. The best thing to do is as so yes, that's right. And then the most powerful way that we have been given in this age of Kali is to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Because if we sit and look into the law of karma, we are going to go crazy. You
Mm.
know. So we do whatever we need to do,
Okay, thank you.
chant Hare Krishna. That is more important.
Okay.
Ultimately, King Vena became so mischievous that the saintly sages actually became afraid of becoming contaminated by his activities. Thus, before taking any action against him, the sages tried to pacify and correct him so that he might turn from his mischief. So they wanted to, guide him properly. So he stops doing all these cruel activities. Tad vidvadhir asadbrito.
Tat Vidpur Asadvito
Veno, veno asmabhikrito nripaha.
Veno Asmavi Krito
Santvito yadi no vacham.
Santvito Yadi no Vacham
Na grahishyati adharmakrit.
Nagraheshyati Adharmakrita
Lokadikara sandagdam.
Lokadikara Sandagdam
Dahishyama svatejasa.
Dahishyama Svatejasa.
The saintly sages continued thinking, of course, we were completely aware of his mischievous nature, yet we nevertheless enthroned Vena. If we cannot persuade King Vena to accept our advice, he will be condemned by the public and we will join them. Thus, by our prowess, we shall burn him to ashes. Saintly persons are not interested in political matters, yet they are always thinking of the welfare of the people in general. Consequently, they sometimes have to come down to the political field and take steps to correct the misguided government or royalty. So it's the brahmanas. It's not their activity to take part in politics, but just to guide the king so that the king can be taking care of the citizens. However, in Kali Yuga, saintly persons are not as powerful as they previously were. They used to be able to burn any sinful man to ashes by virtue of their spiritual prowess. Now, saintly persons have no such power due to the influence of the age of Kali. So before they did, they would curse anyone. But of course, if he's a sage, he wouldn't unjustly curse anyone. But if someone was mischievous, they might curse him for his own good. Indeed, the Brahmanas do not even have the power to perform sacrifices in which animals are put into a fire to attain a new life. So before, like when the Ashwamedha Yajna, for example, just to give the horse a new life, all that is prohibited in Kali Yuga. Why? Because the Brahmanas do not have those qualifications to chant this Vedic mantras. Under these circumstances, instead of actively taking part in politics, saintly persons should engage in chanting the Mahamantra Hare Krishna. By the grace of Lord Chaitanya, by simply chanting this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the general populace can derive all benefits without political implications. So this is the great mercy of Lord Chaitanya. He's called Mahavadanyaya. Srila Rupa Goswami calls him Mahavadanyaya, the most munificent, most compassionate. We can't even begin to understand how degraded is this age of Kali. But Lord Chaitanya, out of his compassion, is freely giving us the highest gift, which is Krishna Prema. And how is he giving? He's saying just simply chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Evam adya vasayenam
Evam
adyavasayenam
munayo godamanyavaha
munayo
Munayo Buddhamanyavaha
manyava
upabrajya bruvanvenam
upavrajya
Venam
brahmanenam
santavyatvaschya samabehe.
samavasamapi.
The great sages, having thus decided, approached King Vena. Concealing their real anger, they pacified him with sweet words and then spoke as follows. Munaya Ucha
Munaya
Nripa Varya Nibodhetat
Nripavarya
Yatte Vikyapayamabho
Yatte vidyapayamavo
Ayushi Bala Kirtina
ayushi
Ayushrivalakirtinam
Tavata Vivardhanam.
tavatata
Tavatata
The great sages said, Dear King, we have come to give you good advice. Kindly hear us with great attention. By doing so, your duration of life and your opulence, strength, and reputation will increase. According to Vedic civilization, in monarchy, the king is advised by saintly persons and sages. By taking their advice, he can become the greatest executive power, and everyone in his kingdom will be happy, peaceful, and prosperous. So the kings, they protect but they take guidance from the sages so that they can properly protect everyone, make sure of the welfare of everyone. The kings, the great kings were very responsible in taking instructions given by great saintly personalities. The kings used to accept the instructions given by great sages like Parashara, Vyasadeva, Narad, Devala, and Asita. In other words, they would first accept the authority of saintly persons and then execute their monarchical power. Monarchical power. Unfortunately, in the present age of Kali, the head of government does not follow the instructions given by the saintly persons. Therefore, neither the citizens nor the men of government are very happy. The duration of life is shortened, and almost everyone is wretched and bereft of bodily strength and spiritual power. If citizens want to be happy and prosperous in this democratic age, they should not elect rascals and fools who have no respect for saintly persons. So yeah, we can say that, the current state of affairs is everyone and anyone is doing however they act. And that's the reason the society is in the way it is. Dharma acharita pumsam
Dharma acharita pumsham
van manaha kaya buddhibihi
Vanmanakaya buddhibihi
lokan vishokan vitarati
Lokan
Lokan vishukan
Vishokan
vitarati
athanantyam asanginam.
Athanantyam
Athanantayam
Asangina.
asangina.
Those who live according to religious principles and who follow them by words, mind, body, and intelligence are elevated to the heavenly kingdom, which is devoid of all miseries. Being thus rid of the material influence, they achieve unlimited happiness in life. The saintly sages herein instruct that the king or head of government should set an example by living a religious life. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, religion means worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should not simply make a show of religious life, but should perform devotional service perfectly with words, mind, body, and good intelligence. So, what is religion? Here, Prabhupada is explaining what does religion mean. Religion, when we say it in dharma, when we translate it to mean dharma, what is dharma? Dharma is that which is the natural activity of the soul. And what is the natural activity of the soul? That's service, to serve. And now we are misguided. We are thinking, oh, I have to serve my body. But actually, the service is for the Supreme Lord, devotional service. That is religion. With mind, body, words, and good intelligence. By doing so, not only will the king or government head rid himself of the contamination of the material modes of nature, but the general public will also, and they will all become gradually elevated to the kingdom of God and go back home, back to Godhead. So here we are hearing Prabhupada is pointing out that how the leadership is so important. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita also, what the great men do, the common person follows. Yeah, we do that. We follow those who are famous or those who, those who are opulent. It's natural. So if the leaders are Krishna conscious, automatically everyone will become Krishna conscious. The instructions given herein serve as a summary of how the head of government should execute his ruling power and thus attain happiness not only in this life but also in the life after death. So, because happiness, many might think that happiness just ends till the time we are in the body, and after that there is nothing. But in fact, real life, real happiness begins from the point of liberation. That's when a soul actually engages in devotional service, understanding that I'm a spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna, and my natural activity, my dharma, is to engage in the loving service of Krishna. And devotional service begins by hearing from Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and chanting. Satte ma vinashit vira.
Satyema vinashedvira.
Praja nam shema lakshanaha.
Prajanam
Prajanam
Shema
Shema
Lakshanaha
Lakshanaha.
Yasmin vinashte nirpatir.
Yasmin
Yasmin
Vinaste
Vinaste
Nirpate
Nirpate.
Aishwaryat avarohate.
Aishwaryat
Aishwaryat
Avarohati.
Avaropati.
The sages continued, O great hero, for this reason you should not be the cause of spoiling the spiritual life of the general populace. If their spiritual life is spoiled because of your activities, you will certainly fall down from your opulent and royal position. So they're telling him, hey, the duty of the king, take care of the citizens, let them lead a peaceful life, at the same time cultivate their spiritual knowledge so they can go back home, back to Godhead. But you're stopping this. You're stopping them from going back to Godhead. So you are going to get the reaction for this. Formerly, in practically all parts of the world, there were monarchies. But gradually, as monarchy declined from the ideal life of religion to the godless life of sense gratification, monarchies all over the world were abolished. However, simply abolishing monarchy and replacing it with democracy is not sufficient unless the government men are religious and follow in the footsteps of great religious personalities. So Prabhupada is pointing out it's not a matter of monarchy or democracy. No, the point is that the leader should rule in a religious manner for the general welfare of everyone. And Prabhupada points out that the citizens are not only the human beings that are in that country, but even the animals, the fish, the birds, the plants, the trees, everyone is a citizen of that place. Rajan asadva amatyebhyas.
Rajan
Rajan
Asad Amatyebhyas
Choradevya prajanripaha.
Choradivya
Choradivya
Prajanripaha
Prajanarpraha.
Rakshan yatha balim grihanan.
Rakshan Yata
Shanyata
Balim
Baligrihan.
Grihanan
Iha pretya chamodate.
Iha Pritya
Pretya
Chamodate.
Chamodate.
The saintly persons continued, when the king protects the citizens from the disturbances of mischievous ministers, as well as from thieves and rogues, he can, by virtue of such pious activities, accept taxes given by his subjects. Thus, a pious king can certainly enjoy himself in this world as well as in the life after death. So the sages are telling him how he should do his duty properly, take care of the citizen, and then you have a right to collect taxes. And then you will not only be peaceful and happy in this life, but you'll also be happy in the next. Otherwise, they're telling him, otherwise, how you're taking taxes from them? You're not doing your part, but you're taking the tax. So that will entangle you. The duty of a pious king is described very nicely in this verse. His first and foremost duty is to give protection to the citizens from thieves and rogues, as well as from ministers who are no better than thieves and rogues. Formerly, ministers were appointed by the king and were not elected. Consequently, if the king was not very pious or strict, the ministers would become thieves and rogues and exploit the innocent citizens. It is the king's duty to see that there is no increase of thieves and rogues, either in the government secretariat or in the departments of public affairs. If a king cannot give protection to citizens from thieves and rogues, both in the government service and in public affairs, he has no right to exact taxes from them. In other words, the king or the government that can levy taxes from the citizens only if the king or government is able to give protection to the citizens from thieves and rogues. So the kings, they would give protection and they would collect taxes, and that taxes would be used for the protection of the citizens. Or whenever there's scarcity, whenever there's need, then the king would use that funds. In the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 12:140, there is a description of these thieves and rogues in government service. As stated, prajaste bhakshishyanti mlecha rajanya rupinaha. These proud malechas, persons who are less than Shudras, representing themselves as kings, will tyrannize their subjects, and their subjects, on the other hand, will cultivate the most vicious practices. Because Bhagavatam, the 12th canto, it has some predictions of Kali Yuga, which we can see slowly how they are coming to pass, how these predictions that Bhagavatam is giving, you can see it's actually happening. So anyway, Bhagavatam says that everyone who's born in this age of Kali is a Shudra, and then we are Shudras, we are electing Shudras. So how we can expect good ruling with that? And Bhagavatam says that the persons who are the rulers, they themselves are going to become the tyrants, thus practicing evil habits and behaving foolishly. The subjects will be like their rulers. The idea is that in the democratic days of Kali Yuga, the general population will fall down to the standard of Shudras. As stated, Kala Shudra Sambhavaha. Practically, the whole population of the world will be Shudra. A Shudra is a fourth-class man who is only fit to work for the three higher social castes. Being fourth-class men, Shudras are not very intelligent. Since the population has fallen in these democratic days, they can only elect a person in their category. But a government cannot run very well when it is run by Shudras. So what it is, the point is that the king, he would take guidance from the Brahmanas. Why? Because the Brahmanas were not selfish. They were not only thinking of their own motive. They were seeing how everyone would be happy, how everyone's interests were fulfilled. So there would be general peace, harmony. The second class of men, known as Kshatriyas, are especially meant for governing a country under the direction of saintly person Brahmanas, who are supposed to be very intelligent in other ages, in Satyug, Tretayug, and Dwapar. The general populace was not so degraded, and the head of government was never elected. The king was the supreme executive personality, and if he caught any ministers stealing like thieves and rogues, he would at once have them killed or dismissed from service. So the king was doing his duty well, not only being a king in the name. By such strict wisdom, as it was the duty of the king to kill thieves and rogues, it was similarly his duty to immediately kill dishonest ministers in government service. By such strict vigilance, the king could run the government very well, and the citizens would be happy to have such a king. The conclusion is that unless the king is perfectly able to give protection to the citizens from rogues and thieves, he has no right to levy taxes from the citizens for his own sense gratification. However, if he gives all protection to the citizens and levies taxes on them, he can live very happily and peaceful in this life, and at the end of this life, be elevated to the heavenly kingdom or even to the Vaikunthas, where he will be happy in all respects. So Prabhupada is pointing out the duty of the king, the duty of the leader, that he can take the taxes only if he's getting proper protection. Are there any questions or comments?
No, all good.
Thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare